are to the third chapter of the book that we are talking about, The Game of Networking by Rob Speery. He's an amazing coach and mentor to many in the network marketing field. And this week, we're going to be talking about the third chapter, or the third law, and that is the law of recallability. This is really important because you want to make sure that when you try to share this opportunity with people, that this is not the first time that they're hearing from you, or that they have other fond memories first, right? And so I'm going to let Don D just really kind of take it from here. I'll pipe in every once in a while, but he's got this. So law of recallability.
Law of recallability, the third law. And if you remember in review, the first law was the law of likability. So making sure that people like you. Are you doing things that cause people to lean in, to like you? The second is the law of credibility. In other words, when you talk, do people listen? Are you known as a credible source? Well, the interesting thing about the law of recallability, which is the third law, is you can have high amounts of likability and high amounts of credibility and zero recallability, which is really interesting. So what is recallability? It's the ability to have an awareness of something or someone, or better said, people remembering you. When people think of you, are they thinking of you, and in what capacity? What separates you from the others? That's really going to be what we're talking about here. The law of recallability. When people think of network marketers, do they think of you? When they think of great neighbors, do they think of you? When they think of a special person who is always thoughtful, do they think of you? These are just a couple examples of recallability, but it's a very, very important thing in network marketing, because there's lots of network marketing companies, there's lots of network marketing people that are out there promoting their products and their company, but it makes that they're doing it in ways that there's not really anything unique about them. What makes you stand out? And if you don't know, pay attention to these, because ultimately we want to stand out for good reasons and be recallable. So are you on their minds? Whose mind? Anybody that has ever seen anything about our company, about our products, or that knows you. When they think of you, why do they think of you? Are they thinking of you? Are they recalling you? The more the answer to that is yes, the better you are going to be in life, and certainly in your network marketing business here at LifeVantage. The ability for people to think about you over someone else. So let's talk about now how to increase your value. We talk about, so when you provide value to someone, it causes them most of the time to like you. It also sets up you as being credible. And as it relates to other people, other companies, whether it's on social media, whether it's in a social situation, whether you meet somebody on a regular basis, what makes you stand out? And a lot of times it's the value that you create. Are you creating value? And if the answer is yes, what does it look like? How is it coming? How valuable are people looking at it? And what is your methodology behind it? So increasing your value and the value that you provide to others, especially in the workplace or in your sphere of influence, is really going to go a long way to talk about your ability to have recallability with these people. So consider it making deposits into people. The more value you place on what you're providing, especially as it relates to some individuals, the more recallable you are going to be. So I use this example here of an ATM, making a deposit into an ATM. Now, deposits, let's kind of think of this in the banking cycle. You make up a deposit, then you make another deposit, then you make another deposit, and you make another deposit, and so on. When you need to make a withdrawal, there's something in there to withdraw from because you've made the deposits previously. But if you're not making deposits, when you need to make a withdrawal, there's nothing there. And that's really how we look at it, whether it's cultivating a garden, cultivating a relationship, cultivating your business. The ability to make deposits into people goes a long way. And I've heard that term called social banking, making deposits into people. I love this quote here from John Maxwell. Adding value to others is the surest way to add value to our own lives. And said another way, Zig Ziglar talks about the more you help other people get what they want, it's how we get what we want. It's social banking, making deposits into people. So this is something I always, when I see this number one, make them feel special, I always think of Carrie Dickey, where she talks about having imagine that everyone you come in contact with has a sign around their neck that says, make me feel important, or make me feel special. People will never forget that. They may forget what you say, they may forget what you do, but they will never forget how you make them feel on the good side and the bad side. And we talk about, we're not going to share anything here that we cannot personally relate to. Network marketing has been an incredibly humbling experience for me personally. It is nothing like success in any other business that I've had. It requires much different skill sets, much different levels of commitment and discipline, and it requires making people feel special. So number two, the content that you're putting out. How often are you doing it? Are you consistent in it, on whether it's on social media posts, the reels that you're making, the small little videos, blogs, whether you're making phone calls to people, trainings, emails, newsletters, whatever it is, the content that you are creating, if it's valuable, you are making a deposit into people, and you're not asking for a withdrawal. Making deposits makes people feel special because there's nothing attached to it. Number three, friendships, mentorships, and guidance. And especially this gets more applicable when you take on a leadership position in anything. When you take on a leadership position, the friendships that you create, the mentoring that you're doing, the guidance that you're providing people helps make them feel special, helps them grow, and that is your deposit with interest. They're developing interest. Your deposits are paying dividends because it's creating extra value in the person that you're putting deposits into. And then 4, support. 5, encouragement. It's very important in a business capacity, especially in network marketing and a leadership capacity, to support your people, to encourage them to believe in their potential most of the time before they do. It's a very important thing about personal development, leadership development, is believing in someone's potential before they believe in themselves. And that's the recognition comes in, supporting them, rewarding them, complimenting them. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be heartfelt. It could be as easy as a text. Hey, congratulations on your 2 customers this month. Or like we just created a slide to encourage the people that have 3 or have 4, go out and get 2 more, Dr. Pat. And for Melanie, go out and get another one. And Dr. Dan, go out and get another one. That's encouragement, that's support, that's recognition. It's believing in their potential. And this is something that pays massive dividends because it makes people feel special, especially when they're called out. And here's the other thing, when they're not expecting it. It's the most empowering and most supportive when someone is not expecting the recognition or the call out or the shout out. That's when it makes the most difference. And that's where they take on the leadership development. They start feeling like a leader when they're constantly being poured into those social banking deposits. And then ask them for a favor. This is something that Benjamin Franklin talked about, how you win over enemies. Ask them for a favor. How you can do that in network marketing is ask a successful business person, hey, I would really appreciate it if you could evaluate my business. I know you're very successful in business. I really appreciate it. It's obvious. Could I show you my business and could you give me your honest feedback? They're doing you a favor. Most of the time when you ask someone to do them a favor, they just want to, especially if you've already placed value in them, you've made deposits into them, or they like you, you're credible, and you have recallability. These are all things that go great deal as far as doing that. So utilize this. Did you have something you wanted to say?
No, you're good. Okay. Keep going.
Provide tremendous value to as many people as possible, and you will attract blessings into your life. Thank you, Francis Shenstone. I put this little indicator there at the bottom, tell my 5-cent story. This is something that I did when I was in practice that made me recallable. So we have 5 natural senses. We have sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. And here's something that scientific researchers will validate. The more of your natural senses that are stimulated in any situation, the more memorable that situation will be. And so every single time a patient came to my office, we deliberately stimulated their 5 senses. Now, they didn't know it necessarily, but when they came in, there was music, positive, uplifting music that they could hear piping through the sound system. There was the touch. Obviously, as a chiropractor, I would touch them, but I hugged every patient after the adjustment and told them I would see them on their next visit. So they're listening, they're hearing positive music, they're getting the physical touch. You say, well, how is their smell being stimulated? Well, on chiropractors' tables, there's face paper. In the cardboard core, I would put essential oil, either lemon or vanilla, for 2 reasons. They're very recognizable scents, and most of the time they're hypoallergenic. We had a lot of kids in our practice. Pregnant mothers are not typically allergic to lemon or vanilla, but they're very recognizable and very common sense. Why is that important? Because every time their face is on my table, they were smelling lemon, they were smelling vanilla, and when they go out into the world, say they're drinking a glass of lemonade, guess whose chiropractic office they're thinking of? Not anyone else's, they're thinking of mine. Or they go down the fragrance aisle of the grocery store and they smell vanilla, or they pick up some vanilla beans, or they walk by the coffee and they smell vanilla bean coffee. Guess whose office they're thinking of? Mine. That was the entire dimension, or the entire reason for it, because it made my office and me what? Recallable. And the other part of that is the visual stimulation. Every single month, we moved every single picture in my entire office. So, and every single picture was not a picture of a landscape or a pretty flower. It was something that had to do with chiropractic. And then I wrote on it in dry erase marker, and I changed what I wrote to stimulate thought every single time. I was educating people by engaging their view. And every single month, the pictures were new. They never had the same view twice, and they never had the same triggering thought process that I was handwriting on these things. So it was educating people every time. And then the last is taste.
Yeah, I was going to say adjustment.
Yes. So at our front desk, we had a little crystal bowl with Altoids in it that had a little sign, adjustments, please take one. And so every time someone came in, most people would grab an Altoid and pop it in their mouth. Well, guess what? It wasn't to get rid of their bad breath if they had it. It wasn't to give them something to suck on to get the peppermint taste. It was when they leave and they get an Altoid from someone else, or they smell peppermint oil, guess who they're thinking of? We had so many people tell us when they called in to schedule appointments, how did you hear about us? Well, oddly enough, I put an Altoid in my mouth and it recalled my memory, and I realized I hadn't been in a while and I needed to make an appointment. Or somebody gave them an Altoid and then they chose that opportunity to talk about their chiropractor. That is what recallability looks like. Do it in your own special way. I'd never heard of anybody doing that. I just remembered reading an article in my psychology class in college that the more of the 5 senses you stimulate, or that are stimulated in any event, the more memorable it was. And I remembered at that moment, it's like, I'm going to figure out a way to implement that into my practice someday. And I did, and it paid dividends like crazy. So think about how you can do something similar. It doesn't have to be stimulating 5 senses, but what could make you stand out from all the other network marketers out there? Use your creativity, use your personality, use your likes and dislikes. Make, for however people know you, capitalize on those things, because it's what separates you from everybody else and what makes you recallable. So getting no is gold. This is invite your friends. And this is something to think about. When you invite friends to an event that you're going to, and I heard this, never eat alone. Say you're hungry, you want to go somewhere, send out a few texts, 4 or 5 texts to people, inviting them to go to lunch with you. You don't have to buy, you can go Dutch. And there's some people that are going to say no. You know they're going to say no because they're probably working. It doesn't matter that they said no. What matters is that you thought of them. And if you do that on a repeated basis, how many times do you eat? How many times do you eat out? Don't ever do it alone. Send 4 or 5 text messages to 4 or 5 friends. You'll probably get 2 or 3, or maybe 1 or 2 to sit down with you. But the ones who do show up, you're going to have some memorable ideas. You're going to talk, you have some memorable conversations. But the people that aren't able to go, guess what they're thinking? They're thinking, wow, I feel special. He or she invited me to go to someplace. If you do that on a regular basis, And every time that happens, you're going to stimulate them feeling special again. And someday they're going to return the favor. They're going to invite you to something, or it's just going to deepen your relationship. Movies, treat some friends or couples to a movie premiere, especially if you know you've got some similar tastes in common, like I did with my friend Ian with the Top Gun movie that came out. We talk about Top Gun ever since it came out in 1986. And guess who went to the next one? We did. So things like that, a concert or some live music, whether it's a certain type of music, invite friends to go with you because you're creating memories and you're being recallable. A comedy club or golf or mini golf or bowling or any type of social activity, invite friends to go with you so that you're not doing any of these things alone. And here's the thing, the no's are the most effective. The people that come and that say yes and show up are going to have a great experience, and so are you. It's the people that weren't that feel special because they just got an invitation. It's the more powerful are the no's, especially if you're doing it intently, you're doing it purposefully, and you're doing it regularly. You're creating relationships, you're providing value, and you're becoming more and more recallable every time. Whether it's museums or seminars or events or hiking, walking, go to a dog park. If you've got a dog, go to the dog park and invite a friend of yours that has a dog. You can get, there's so many opportunities here, but look for the no's. Invite people that you know can't come, and sometime maybe that day they got the day off. It's like, I couldn't usually come, but now I can. How they're going to make that happen, especially if you've gotten 2 or 3 previous invitations from you. So capitalize on inviting your friends to things, and be the host. Start small, whether it's just dinner at your house, watching a sporting event at your house. It's World Series time, playoff time. Anytime there's playoff games with certain types of teams, especially if you have the same team, invite people over to watch it with you. Have them bring a snack, have them bring a bowl of chips or whatever. Group lunches, watch parties at virtual events. That January event, it's on the 13th of January next year. Plan now.
It sounds like we already have a group coming from Colorado
That's
to
awesome.
visit us, to
That's
get out of
awesome.
the snow.
Well, come on down and start capitalizing on this. Host a watch party at your house, and probably the second week of December, start planting seeds, because what do people do at the end of every year? They look, most people, whether they make their New Year's resolutions or not, they're thinking about how they want the coming year to be better than the present year. Capitalize on that. Host a watch party, invite your neighbors. Hey, I'd love to share with you what we do to help your 2024 be more amazing than this year. And just figure out creative ways to invite people to watch parties. Your team, like Marcy said, your prospects, your neighbors, people that don't know what you do, but they know you. Use it as a great opportunity. And then hobbies.
Cross line, I would say.
Yeah, of course. Hobbies, family movie night. Just have, if you've got a big screen TV, even if you've got a little black and white with rabbit ears and tinfoil, if they still have people with that, it doesn't matter. It's the social dynamic. It's the invitation to people that feel special. Capitalize on that. Holiday theme nights, whether it's, we've got what? Halloween's coming up. Then we've got Thanksgiving. Then we've got Christmas, and there's Easter and all kinds of different Halloweens. There's all kinds of reasons.
I think we should put a scary movie on the garage door with a projector.
That would be epic.
On Halloween.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
Done.
I think we should do
Done.
that. Yeah.
Okay. Book clubs, barbecue, potluck, networking groups, meetups. There's so many ways for you to be social, but here's the thing, be the host. When you are the one conducting this, when you are the one inviting this, the most recallable person in an event is the host. Always is, always has been, always will be. Be the host and start small and work your way up. Now, this is what I'm looking forward to this next slide, because you can work your way up into bigger things, bigger and bigger things, team trainings. Marcy and I, with the house that we had where we had a horse property, we had team trainings all the time. We hosted a vision board party where we went to places and got boxes and boxes of magazines. And then we bought a ton of poster boards and a bunch of scissors and glue sticks and just had a vision board party. It was amazing.
Yeah, and then we also did our Design Your Life training at that same house, to where we had, what are those called?
Bonfires?
Yeah, well, no, but what was the actual boards that we used? The
Pallets.
So we stacked up a bunch of pallets, and we had a bonfire, I think, that went
You could see it from space,
a
probably.
100 feet at least, or 150.
No, it wasn't that
Oh,
high.
I think it was. It was huge. But
It was good 30 to
such an
40 foot
amazing,
range,
amazing event, right? But I mean, we remember it. I don't know if anybody that's on here right now were at that event, but it was so memorable for us. Yeah, doing those types of things are amazing.
And that was actually what was that word? That was an exercise that we did. I literally got like 8 pallets and screwed them together, and then we lit them on fire, and then we had people write down the things they wanted to, and it was at the end of the year. We wanted people things that people wanted to release, bad habits.
So basically, number
whatever
4, release your fears.
Release your fears, and then write it on paper, crumple it up, and throw it into the bonfire to provide fuel. It's going to get burned up, and with it goes your fears.
Sir.
So yeah, number 7. So
Sorry. Jumped in a little early.
Team building events, but we release your fears. Movie nights, team trainings where you profile certain leaders, and each leader talks about a different topic. We've done that multiple times, and it was great because every one of them was not expecting it. Every one of them was taken by surprise and fearful, but every one of them said yes. And when they got up and whatever they want to teach about, when they got up and they were done and they didn't die, talk about a jolt of confidence, because they felt special. They felt like an authority. They were stepping outside their comfort zone, and it changed the way they felt about themselves and the leader that they became in their business. Those are great to do those.
They felt empowered, and they felt like they had support. They weren't alone, which is what these events really do. It's amazing when you're the host of that and can provide that type.
And I remember the last one there, number 8, when Eric Worre released the movie, the Rise of the Entrepreneur. We had a watch party. We got the actual disc. We had a huge screen and put a projector and did it in our backyard and invited everyone over in the local market here. And it was powerful. You don't have to do things like this big, but when you focus on being the host and hosting events where people are going to be poured into, they're going to have value, they're going to feel special, and you are the host, you are becoming more and more recallable every time you do that. And word will start to get out. You'll start to be known for those kinds of things. Okay, go next slide. So be the ping king or queen. Find creative ways to stay in touch with people. In the book, he talked about this guy named Joe Girard that sold cars for 14 years. He sold 13,000 cars in 14 years. He's in the Guinness Book of World Records as the world's greatest salesperson. He averaged 3 car sales a day over a 14-year period where he sold 13,000 cars. This one guy was selling more than most dealerships. And what was his unique ability? What made him recallable? He called it the Law of 250. That every single person knows 250 people on average by first name. Some people know more, some people know less, but every person knows on average 250 people by first name. And he thought every single person who he failed to make a connection with, he lost 250 prospects to put in their dream car. And what he did, he knew all their kids' names, what sports they played, their dogs' names, where they like to vacation, what their favorite color was. And he chose all of these ways to send unexpected, unannounced thank yous. Most of the time, a handwritten card on their kid's birthday. When you get recognized like that, talk about feeling special. Guess when you think of buying a car, there's only one guy you're thinking of. Joe Girard, which is why he sold 13,000 cars in 14 years by doing things that other people didn't do. And did it cost him money? Sure it did. But guess what? The commissions from average of 3 cars per day paid for all those handwritten envelopes, which he did on his spare time. And in only 14 years, he's known he's a legend in the sales world, and that's called pinging. Become the ping queen. You have a friend.
I
right?
actually have a couple examples of this. So I know a guy, he actually was our tax accountant, not mine and Don D's, but a tax accountant decades ago. And we also went to the same church together. But I mean, every single year on my birthday, he calls and he leaves a message telling me happy birthday. But he doesn't just do it on my birthday. He does it on both of my kids' birthdays too, because he knew both of them. And so 3 times a year, he's leaving a message on my phone about our birthdays, which means he's coming to my mind at least 3 times a year, and 4 now, since we're talking about him now. And then another example is our realtor, Ginny.
Yeah.
She's amazing. Every single holiday, there's a goodie on our doorstep. There is some sort of, happy Halloween, Merry Christmas, whatever, with their business cards and their little magazine and little gifts every single holiday. And so when somebody is asking for, hey, do you know of a realtor that you would recommend? Immediately Jenny's name comes to mind, right? Because she's created the recallability, right? And so just those small things that you do when people aren't expecting it consistently will create that recallability for yourself.
And set you apart from everyone else. And that is where the superpower of the law of recallability comes in. Why are they thinking of you? What are you doing that is unique? It doesn't have to be much. In fact, it could be very small, but as long as it's consistent and then it becomes predictable, that's when like if I ask Marcy, who are you going to get a call from on your birthday? Some of her siblings don't even call her on her birthday. In fact, most of them don't, but there's one name that always comes up, the person who's done it for years. That is the recallability. When you can count on someone more than your own siblings to wish you a happy birthday, you just did a great job on recallability. So that's really what this is about. What separates you from other people?
And one thing I want to point out about this guy that calls every single year, I told you I get messages from him. He calls early in the morning before I'm awake, right? So it's not even a matter of me talking to him. It's a matter of his voice and his message. Right. So it's not it takes him 20 seconds, if that.
Yeah.
It's not a long conversation. So you can find a way to create these moments for people without it taking a whole lot of time from you too.
And there is somebody that I'm hoping she's still on, but I need to point her out. Actually, a couple, Rachel and Jason.
Yeah.
You guys are amazing at that. It doesn't take much. But we know, and little things.
We think about you guys all the time.
All the freaking time.
We have magnets on our fridge that Rachel and Jason made for us. Some hand-painted little magnets, like with jack-o'-lantern faces on them.
And little rocks.
Yes. And we absolutely love it when we see those things and it brings you guys to mind.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
That's
we love you guys. That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And it's very creative. When you can take little rocks and hand paint them, whether it's got the LifeVantage logo or, like Marcy said, jack-o'-lanterns or just happy faces or even like a little form of a little cactus. You guys are so thoughtful, so creative, and so recallable.